Hello and welcome to the Gale Force Studio. This is High Traffic Ideas. Today we have a guest again. So this is something, again, we want to make sure that we're sharing the best cases, the best ideas, different things. So I'm going to try to get a bunch of different people around the industry to kind of share that's just the things that they're noticing out there, whether it's AI, video production, marketing, whatever it might be. I want to be able to kind of share that with everybody. So without me rambling on, I'm going to bring in my guest. I've got Benjamin Watkins. Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ronnie.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. So Ben and I, we were both in the Army. We went to the lovely country of Iraq together back in 2003. And just like I was talking to him before the show, it's funny now kind of seeing so many different people. We were all within the PSYOP community. And it's essentially, as I always kind of pitch it to people, and you might have a different perspective of this, and I'm curious to hear it, is we kind of had to market the United States to whatever country we were in. And so we had a little pin on ours that said the power of persuasion, which essentially is marketing. And so I'm very curious to just kind of get your take. What was your takeaways as far as kind of the things that you learned that have kind of helped you to today?
Yeah, that's great. I know for the power of persuasion, another way of putting it is speaking to the heart to change the mind. And that's one thing that we really did there is, just working with the communities and sending a message out saying, hey, we're here to help. And not just saying it, but then supporting the efforts that, we're boots on the ground doing it. So our words met our actions. And we saw a lot of good things happening when Ronnie and I were in country. And that's really just translated to today. Like, what are we doing right now in our messaging that speaks to the heart of the audience, that directs their mind, and it's authentic. People can smell BS a mile away, and we just need to be real about what we're talking about. And people can Google. People can use AI. They can smell it real fast if you are falsifying anything. I mean, even I got a client right now. He's like, "Oh, just use AI to make images for me." I'm like, I can, absolutely, but people can smell it. Why don't just grab your iPhone, just take a picture of you next to that AC unit, and post that, and also the metadata that comes with that photo, the geolocation and there's things we can do as marketers and adding metadata in the back end, but the more authentic we are, I think that's how we're going to differentiate ourselves between what AI can do. Now, AI is a powerhouse; it's a great tool, but the more that we can still be real, that's where we're going to be able to connect with the audience. And that's, going back to the military, that's one of the things I really pulled from is how can I relate and how can I speak to them where they can understand, and how do I need to change my message? I might think it's the perfect message, but in Iraq, speaking Arabic was a huge thing.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that point out, just because it's something that I've featured on here. This is kind of the whole, we are not AI bots here. I think that's the thing it's curious as far as hearing somebody else say something. It makes me at least kind of, whether it's egotistical or narcissist, is like some of the messages that I've tried to tell my own clients is very similar to kind of what you've mentioned of just being authentic. I think there's going to be so much AI out there because it's so quick and easy to do. But as I'm sure something that you've mentioned to your clients, having that relationship from consumer to business, or whether it B2C kind of deal, a lot of the companies or the products I buy, you sometimes have a loyalty, or you've had a relationship with somebody that's there and there's a connection point, versus just, oh, I saw this AI and that's where I'm going to go. I think a lot of times we work with a lot of service-based industry companies, and so having that service to whatever customer you're coming in, you have to have that relationship. And that's so similar when you transfer it over to your marketing. You want that kind of connection point through the marketing. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, one of the things that I like to showcase with my clients is your website is your storefront. That's where people kind of get to see what you're about. That Google Business Profile is your social media, and that business is social media basically. And when you are, say, in that map pack, you're popping up top 3, for example, and people start looking at the reviews. Those are real people,
Yep.
and so they will listen to those reviews way more than what your website can share. Now, your website can benefit that GBP by sharing how you relate with the customer. So, what is your brand? What is your story? How are you, sharing that on your website? Do you have a, let's say air conditioning, for example. Do I have a picture of an air conditioner on my AC website, or is it me talking to a client, or is it a happy faced, client that is, like the next person that looks at it, the audience we're trying to target, can go, I see myself in that picture. I want to look, further into this. So I think that's where as marketers, we can come to our clients and say, listen, those Google business reviews are essential. And being able to get those stories, the more details, the better. If they can take photos, awesome. But
Yep.
then also then, how human are you? Are you interacting with that review? How long does it take you to respond to that review? And that's where I think, we as marketers can come in and take that time, rather than the business owner walking through and looking at it, being like, hey, let us respond to that review for you. And we're also going to utilize that review to plug in those keywords that then continue to build that Google business profile. So doing that, and then also adding value. Are you posting on your Google business profile weekly, just saying, hey, here's some free information. Change out that filter once every 6 months on your AC unit. It's going to help out. There's free information you as a business owner can do to provide to your client, so they're not coming to you for like something that you think is simple, and it maybe educates them. They're like, wow, now I'm building trust. I trust this. He gave me all this free information, and I see all these people responding back, giving 5 stars. Like, I want to give this guy a try. I don't know if I just went down a complete rabbit hole for you, but
No, to me that's I have like, have you been listening to my calls with my clients? Because we're saying all of these key points that I'm usually mentioning. I think that at least for us, we do a lot of like, I want to say macro style blogs of like, hey, this industry can offer this. But one of the things, at least within this last year, I'm trying to shift and be like, hey, we need your images. I need you to take pictures of different things and post them onto your Google business profile, just like what you were saying. Because one, if it's, at least for us, because we work with a lot of window tinners, if you've put on a store decal and someone's driving past that, that's going to stick in their head because it's something that they see on a regular basis versus some stock photo that we use. And so that's where, and I couldn't agree more with kind of every point that you made there, just because, yeah, it's, how can you connect with that person, I think is so key to everything. And so, no, like I said, it was kind of scary because I'm like, he's reading my playbook as far as he's what I'm telling everybody, because yes, I think having the customer showcase what they're doing, just, it's, again, it kind of goes along with what I was saying, that connection is so key to everything. So as we're talking about this, I see you've got on there Mission Possible Digital. And so you mentioned to me All Things Possible. Kind of give me, what is this new entity or entities that you have going on? Kind of explain, like, what are you working on to try to build out? What's the companies? As I went and glanced at your LinkedIn profile before, it looks like there's a few of them. So we'll kind of touch on it. But yeah, let's get into Mission Possible.
So Mission Possible is the marketing arm of All Things Possible. So All Things Possible is a production company doing video production for different agencies or whoever needs to tell a story. And I've been running All Things Possible for years, 15, maybe 20 years. And in the last few years, I've had a lot of businesses coming to me like, hey, can you help me make a story for my, for my website or for my YouTube, or can you teach me how to do this? And I ran into a gentleman. He's actually kind of become a mentor, which I think we all need as marketers. There's people that have been in the industry a lot longer than myself that I'm still learning from. And he's like, Ben, he's like, you're a great storyteller. Why don't you help businesses with their Google Business Profile? Help them tell their story because that's when people are Googling like plumber near me. And so I'm like, sure. So he was really stepping me through and still is educating me on like, here's what you can do. Here's your possibilities. Here's your, and so he's like, hey, you should really make a marketing arm. So I like all things possible because everything's possible. It's just what are you willing to commit to? And we started talking about military, and we were always on a mission. Sometimes missions seemed impossible, but it's like, well, we maybe need to reframe the mindset of the mission, because if we want to execute something, it's possible, but what is our commitment to it? So, Mission Possible Digital, part of All Things Possible, kind of that tying in the same name, possible. But yeah, so that's marketing for you. But yeah, so that's really where it started. Over 20 years of video production work, filming stories, telling stories, and that is a big thing that we get to bring is helping our clients tell their story, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. On a personal note, just had a conversation this morning with the gal. She made a documentary about her dad who was in World War II, or was her grandfather in World War II. And I asked her, I'm like, how did you get funding for this? Because I'm trying to do a documentary about the 13th Psychological Operations Battalion and what we were like when we were an enemy prisoner of war battalion. So I'm going about that side, putting on my producer hat from doing film, and we've already got a distributor. PBS has already said, "Yep, we're in. You make the movie, we'll air it." So it's doing those passion projects. I love telling other people's stories. This one's a little more personal, and because of those I served with, and that battalion that we were both a part of, that's not their mission anymore. And I want to make sure we capture that story before it's lost to history. So that's something that I'm adventuring into right now too, and I've been doing. So I mentioned before we kicked off, talked to a mutual friend of ours that we both deployed with, and he's excited about it too. So I think it's definitely something that we have to do for ourselves. We help our clients, but also being able to be creative for ourselves to get that out, because it also, I think it gives us an ability to see how we can serve our clients, maybe even in a new way. So always bringing in those fresh ideas.
No, that's awesome. I'm definitely. I remember seeing some links and some posts about it. I'm glad to hear that it's still going along and that it's actually got some wheels turning. So that's. I'm excited for you, and also excited to see it once it comes out, because yeah, it is something personal. We were a part of that, and I'm curious to kind of see just the story that you put together. That was one thing I always definitely felt you were a really good storyteller. And at least for me, that's been something I've known I need to be better at, because one, whether it's for myself to kind of explain different things, that's why I try to just talk into a camera a lot more, just because I feel like something will come out that makes sense in some sort of story. And the more you do, the better you get. And so having gone through and looked at some stuff, I'm definitely curious. I noticed, since you are creating these different stories, that you actually have an Emmy win. And so I'm very curious about this, because it's on your website. And so that you're an award-winning, whether it's director, producer. I'm definitely curious. Tell us more about that project and how that came to be, and maybe it's a little off topic from what we just
said.
No, I'm very curious to know about that, because yes, you have this background, and so this is something I'm wanting to know a little bit more about versus just the blurb that you had on the website.
Yeah, sure. So, wow, years ago, it's like over 10 years ago, a friend of mine that I used to do some production work with just called me up and said, "Hey, Ben, we got a pro bono gig we're doing. It's a World War II veteran. He doesn't know how much longer he's got, but he really wants to have his story told and recorded for future generations." And the gentleman's name was Larry Tillman. He was from St. Joe, Minnesota. And we showed up, and I was capturing audio, and he was going to be doing a tour down to Red Wing. And so I grabbed some cameras, a couple GoPros, stuck them in the van, and had a nice, Sony camera. We're filming them, just getting all these stories. And we went down, got him talking to a whole bunch of National Guard individuals who are going to be deploying, and we have all this footage. And I gave it to the producer, and said, here you go. Here's all the content we've captured. So I ran the camera, I did all the audio, and they took it. And then I was actually working on a computer doing IT at the time. And my phone rang, and my buddy, his name's Chuck. He's like, "Hey Ben, just want to let you know you won an Emmy last night." And I was like, "What? What? For what?" And so he told me, that the production went out and it won Emmy for Best Historical Documentary. Wow. And again, it's about a World War II veteran who was the last known living stenographer or typist from the Nuremberg trials, and so. Hanging out with them there. I mean, the film is about an hour long, and it's on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's called The Typist, and PBS aired it, and thus my connection now to PBS. And yeah, it was a fun project to be a part of, but watching the film as somebody who was there filming it, there's so much content that the audience will never see or hear. Stories that he told that I'm like, it's just as a veteran listening to another veteran talk, it's like, oh my goodness. And that was also the impetus that kind of, for wanting to tell the story of the 13th PSYOP is there are so many amazing things that happened, so many deep friendships, crazy stories and things that happen, even if it's cathartic for us to get it out at least, and it's recorded, does it make the final cut? I don't know. But it's something that we'll definitely be able to live on. And my hope, and this is, bringing you in on the film, because I'd love to hear your story, Ronnie, because there's a lot of tie-ins I've heard in the last few years of Sergeant, West and how amazing he was, being like, where was I? When did that happen? Because I would have given him a huge pat on the back, like, you were an amazing NCO. And if I didn't get to share that with you when we served, I'm sharing with you now. Ronnie, you were an amazing NCO, amazing leader, and the amount of soldiers that you changed their lives, like stepping in and just empowering them and honoring them and building them up and training them, like, you left a legacy. So, good work, man.
Thank you. I was not expecting that, but no, that's awesome to hear. And at least kind of my passion project and stuff that I talk about, it's like I strive to be that. To me, it's not something that I was sitting there thinking that I did. Like, it kind of comes as a surprise. I think it was more, I think everybody is in their own way, like there's something good, and try to get it out of everybody. And I think that's, I'd say I instill it with my parents and from my parents and everybody that kind of was around me in general. There's plenty of other NCOs that I think kind of shared their style and things. I think I never wanted to think that I had some power over everybody. I think it was more like you said, I want to empower. But again, this is not about me specifically. I definitely appreciate you saying that. And yes, I absolutely would love to be a part of this, or whether it's gets in or not. I think just kind of sharing the story that I saw and my perspective and how that kind of loops in. And it's, as you were saying all of this too, I think one of the things that, whether it's as a teacher, I kind of think back to my buddy who was doing studying in the medical field, as far as when you're doing the research and the different things that you kind of come across, so much does get left on the cutting room floor. And I think you learn so much, whether it's making a movie, like trying to put together a brief for somebody, you're learning so many different things, and you're like, well, I don't have time for this or this. And so I think just kind of having those projects, and as I always talk about, and it's something I'll lead into too, is having a purpose. And so I think that's a huge part of just anyone. And it's something that I want to make sure veterans have out there, like having this purpose, because you hear about men who once they retire, they kind of lose that purpose, and then usually death comes a little bit sooner. And so making sure that people have a purpose, and I'm not saying it's your specific one, but one that I definitely see. And for me, it's one of those where I shouldn't say I wish I should do more. I should be doing more, but yet we all have different things, has been just the amount of, and obviously I noticed that you were working with them, but I think being a part of the Wounded Warrior Project and kind of having this purpose that seems to be more than just, like I mentioned, I didn't even realize that it was something that maybe is a job or is just something, but it seems much more like a passion project for you. That's something that you're always going to be a part of and push and try to make sure that people are aware of the different things, or just make sure that people aren't overlooked because of whatever might have happened to them. So how did you get kind of into this project? What kind of fuels this? And to me, like, what do you see kind of moving forward with it?
So for myself, I love films, and I saw a documentary about Wounded Warrior Project, and I was like, hey, that guy, I can relate with that guy. And so I called the organization and just said, hey, I don't even know if I can join. I'm not missing a limb. I'm not in a wheelchair. And they're like, well, you served after 9/11. You absolutely get to join. I'm like, well, okay. And so it was free to join. So that was good because I didn't have a lot of money. And all their services and resources were all free to veterans. They're a 501c3 nonprofit. And so that's how everything is funded, is by donors. And so I started participating in some of their different programs. I became a peer support group leader. So I was leading a peer support group. Nice. And did that for a couple of years. And a position opened up in Minnesota to cover Minnesota, the Dakotas, and Iowa. I applied. I got in. And just started hosting events to get veterans out of their houses, to get them to connect with each other, introduce them to the programs that changed my life and helped me out, and different resources. They helped me do my VA compensation stuff because they're an accredited veteran service organization on that side. And stayed with them hosting events, moved down to Texas, and then got involved this is something I never thought I'd ever do, but got involved with the government side. And it was building out this program called Constituent Affairs. And so my current role is to visit congressional offices and talk to the staff and say, hey, if you got a veteran that calls in and their need doesn't fall within the purview of the office, it's not a federal issue, but that veteran they need something, they need a resource, contact us, contact me, and we'll see what we can do and find a resource for them. So for me, as an NCO, I always wanted to make sure my soldiers are squared away. They had all the tools they needed, because I knew if I took care of them, they'd take care of me. And, that kind of mentality of like, taking care of the entire team. And that's really what it comes down to. If you have that team mindset, things go a lot easier. You can't do everything yourself. So we're working with that team. Same with making a film. I can't say I won an Emmy. No, the film won the Emmy. We just got to be a part of that story. So with Wounded Warrior Project, I still get to be that NCO and help out my brothers and sisters now across the country. And, even though Wounded Warrior Project is, marketed as a post 9/11 organization, their resource center is open to any era veteran to call. And that's what I love about it, is their heart is to serve those who have served our country. And so whether I'm with them for longer or whatever the future may have, like, my heart's still there to serve veterans in whatever capacity. If somebody has a need, I'll open my mouth and be like, hey, call this phone number, or you should get connected with, the VFW or the DAV or whoever has the tool that's going to fit the need that veteran has in the moment. So,
no, that's awesome. That's amazing work. At least I think something, and obviously I don't know the timeline of when, and if you're still doing events, I think that's something, one of the other gentlemen that I kind of work with another podcast, having that in-person communication with people, just kind of those events, I think is huge. since 2020, since we all kind of are doing these video meets and stuff, and it's harder to kind of have those connection points with some people because we get so closed off. And I think that's something, as a veteran, I think whether it's especially men in general, we kind of will trap ourselves or say something isn't wrong when it is. And so having those, maybe that little push to kind of meet up with other people and share your experiences of understanding what each of us kind of went through and within our own different stories, I think is a huge positive. And so I applaud you for that, whether it's something that's still going, but just the fact that you did it in the past, but also kind of the new venture of trying to get those resources for vets, I think is amazing as far as just figuring something out. And like you said, having the purpose. And I think that's something, knowing you, at least, granted, like we said, it's been a long time. You were always someone who kind of made sure, no different than kind of what you mentioned to me, was like you always checked on people and made sure that you always kind of had that caring heart that I always noticed. And so that's obviously hasn't gone away. And that's cool to see.
Yeah.
One of the things, so I've got two other kind of points I kind of wanted to jump at and surprise you. Was you've kind of mentioned this and you've danced around it a little bit. You went back on stage last year as a thespian. And so is that something you mentioned, at least in the post, that it was something that you did 23 years prior?
Yes.
So this was back, obviously, when we were around each other. And so how obviously it's a major piece of impact in your life as far as being on stage performing. Obviously that's kind of led into movies, movie creation, kind of that whole premise as far as it goes. Is it something that you can see yourself doing in the future? Is there kind of an ideal role that you always loved or wanted to do? Kind of give us some insight into how that has shaped you as well, because I think it's something that is very much a part of you. I think that was something, at least I knew when we were together in the Army, was definitely something that you had talked about. And it's funny, I'm failing to come up with the name of the movie, but I remember you were so passionate about, we were doing scene breakdowns, was I think like one of the last memories of being in person with you. Orson Welles, and I remember like the sled Rosebud is at the end. And it's just funny.
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane, thank you.
Yeah.
You were breaking down Citizen Kane, like shot by shot, a little bit in different pieces. And it was just funny because having you on this week, and for whatever reason, my wife sent me something about, like, she sent me like a dog picture, and the dog's name was Rosemary. And I was like, I immediately just thought of the sled and was like, Rosebud. And so, and then that like took me back to like the last time I saw it, and it was with you. So it was just a weird mix of the universe kind of coming around. So tell us a little bit more, at least, is that something you could be doing in the future? Is it something that you want to do, or is it kind of in the rear view?
So my this is always fun. So before 9/11, I was getting my bachelor's in theater and dance from Mankato State University. And 9/11 hit, and I was like, wow, shoot, I don't know if this theater thing is going to do very well. And it had just a big tug in my heart to join the military. And a friend of mine who was a recruiter, which ironically we're still friends, he's the one that told me, hey, be really good at PSYOP, which I had no idea what it was. So I, went to MEPS, did the test, got it, and said I wanted to do PSYOP, basic training, AIT, and pretty much just left the theater behind. Started telling stories more with the camera behind this, and doing that. And there's a tie in there too, with PTSD, just that uncertainty and not feeling safe in front of people. So there's a lot to overcome there. Still kind of is. I mean, you're looking into a dark audience. You don't know who's out there. And it was a play. Actually, our church, was hosting auditions, and I was like, I'll see if I still got it. And so I went and auditioned for it, and the gentleman who was casting it, he's like, hey, I want you to be the understudy of the lead. And I'm like, I need to know the schedule, because if I don't know the schedule, I can't commit. And eventually, I had to back out. It didn't work out. But I said, hey, I want to take you to coffee. And he's like, So you denied a lead I wanted to give you, but you want to get coffee with me. So obviously you're not trying to schmooze me. So we got coffee, became good friends. Fast forward, auditioned again, and got the lead in a little small scene, playing Nostradamus in the play Something Rotten. Really fun role. And then, yeah, just did another little short deal on stage for Purim, which is the story of Esther, and played Mordecai. And then I was also teaching cinematography and editing to this kind of theater troupe, and giving them skills. So is it something that I'm still wanting to do? Yeah, I love storytelling, whether it's in front of people, in front of the camera, behind the camera. I just think stories are so powerful, and but yeah, if something happens, awesome. I Where I live here in Texas, literally, in less than 5 minutes, I can get to the new studio that's filming like Landman, everything for Paramount Plus. It is union only, so I got to figure out how to get in there that way, but I will find a way. But yeah, so that's something. If I could be on a legitimate, movie set, I think that'd be fun. But yeah, so it definitely, if the right thing comes around, it'd be awesome. I do know that the theater troupe, I guess company that I'm working with, if you're familiar with the movie that came out called Bethlehem, Journey to Bethlehem, it's got Antonio Banderas in it. It's a musical, but they're making a theater adaptation of it, and so it'll be the premiere. They're going to be doing it, so it's pretty cool that, and I'm definitely going to audition for that. I'm maybe just be a Roman soldier. Don't want to shave the beard though. Kind of grown attached to this thing.
No, that's cool. It's cool to hear that it's still something that you're involved with, just because to me you wouldn't be the same if you weren't had some sort of connection to it. So that's good. The other thing, and kind of one of the last things I kind of wanted to touch on was, again, I was doing my pre-interview research from LinkedIn, was Golden Shovel. This Tell us about this. I kind of glazed over it, but it looked like something that you were still involved with currently. It seemed like another production arm, maybe something different or along those lines. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Golden Shovel is a marketing agency in Minnesota that I have been, I guess, a permalancer, so permanent freelancer for them for going on 8.5, maybe 9 years. And that actually, I got started with that. My producer friend, Greg Kolbjornsen, who used to own Quarter Ton Productions, he's like, "Hey, I work for this agency. We need an editor. Would you want to jump on a job?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, we're doing virtual reality 360 videos," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so, having done IT for some years, I learned how to build computers. I ended up having to build my own computer because of the weight and the needs of 360 VR. The original camera we worked with was an Omni Pro, so it was like 6 GoPro cameras and this looked like a soccer ball, and you'd bring that thing out and you'd have to stitch all the cameras together. Now 360 cameras are way more advanced, and maybe I just have 2 really nice 360 or 180-degree cameras on them. But yeah, so permalancer for them, doing a lot of video production, web banner videos, and doing that content creation for them. So that's Golden Shovel. And actually, on that, one of the things that they really focus on is cities, counties, and state websites and building those out. And one of the things that got put out about a year is the ADA compliance for all that content. So if you've got video content that you've created and you're getting state funding, county funding, federal funding, it has to be in compliance. And they pushed it out a year, but it doesn't mean you can just stop. It means you got a little bit more breathing room, because I think the 20th was the deadline, April 20th. So I'm not sure when this is airing, but with that, being able to have closed captions, that's easy enough to do. But that audio description being that second layer of video. Now I'm getting all technical, but being able to activate that so somebody who is blind or has got a vision impairment, they can play that second track, and then it's describing what they're seeing to them for that compliance. And then also your video players have to be able to do that. So I'm on the technical side of creating the content, and then adding that audio descriptor. So if a beautiful sunset behind mountains in Montana. Okay, we just describe the visually is there, but that's on audio track too. But then understanding how you need to structure that story is okay. I can show a shot of mountains and the sunset, but is it long enough for the video description to talk about it? So it's really changing how do we tell the story now to make sure we're in compliance with the ADA compliance that was written into law. So yeah, that's Golden Shovel. It's a permalance job.
No, that's fascinating. We really have only dealt with the ADA stuff through websites of trying to make sure that this is accessible to understand for everybody. I had not really even thought about video wise. It's definitely like, as you mentioned, I've definitely have seen or kind of came across those kind of that kind of content. So the fact that that is something that's ongoing is, at least for me, like a whole nother level of things to me. Please always get technical if you're on in the future. I love going down those rabbit holes because it will give me something to think about and be curious about, just because, yes, that's kind of fascinating, just because I've started doing drone work. Granted, it's kind of fallen on the wayside because I'm trying to do much more podcast work. But in my head, it's like that's, as well as the 360 VR. I had a photography teacher who actually he used to build Nintendo video games and is now working with Meta to kind of create some of the VR games. So to me, that's a whole nother level of technical and just the ability to be able to kind of put those things together is fascinating. And it's one of those, I wish I could be like the old surgeries of just sit up and watch like what you're working on, just because I'd be curious. It's like, oh, that's how this goes. But I would have no clue as far as trying to put any of that together. So maybe next time we'll have you on and kind of dive into that stuff. So is there anything else that you kind of wanted to cover? I know I kind of lured you in with kind of marketing and different things. And like I mentioned, you kind of hit on a lot of different things within the marketing realm, whether it's, and we didn't even kind of dive into AI. If there, we did like a little bit as far as, is there, and I guess I'll ask this too as it pops in my head. Are there any kind of, I don't want to say general, but what are your kind of go-to AI tools? For me, I always am using Claude a lot. I have like some video creation ones like Runway and some other different things. How are you utilizing AI with all of the things that you're doing, or not? I think that's, you also mentioned too at the beginning that you want to make sure it's authentic, but yet still obviously using AI to be efficient and kind of maybe time saving. How is that kind of, I don't want to say infiltrated, but how are you using some of those tools to help with everything that you're doing?
Yeah. So let's tie this back to the military, which is always fun. So before we go into any kind of situation, we wanted to do a target audience analysis. We wanted to find out, what is going on there. So if I'm looking at a client that I want to onboard, or I've already onboarded them, and I got to figure out like how do we best tell their story. I know how to build websites? It's not a focus. I understand the technical side of it, but it's not my strength. And what I've really leaned into is, using Claude, using ChatGPT to like, hey, analyze this website, go into it. Is the search engine optimization good? Rip this thing apart. Tell me everything that's going on there, and coming back and it's saying, well, hey, there are missing opportunities here. Like for Google, it wants to know the city they service. Plumbing is not really a good H1 headline. So it's, being able to utilize these tools to do what I can't do, but then to educate me of like, okay, here's what needs to be done. And then I can go and I can be like, okay, I know the technical side, I can do that. But so using it to really analyze websites, analyze the market, giving it access to, keyword searching and, okay, what's the heat map of Louisville, Texas look like right now? How many people are actually looking for handyman near me? Because then I can be able to come back to the client and say, hey, look, you're leaving money on the table. You are number 5 in the map pack. If somebody expands that, they'll see you, but they're going to look at the top 3. And
Yep.
I'm looking at your profile here, and man, if you just start answering your reviews and posting regularly, you're actually going to jump up to number 3, if not number 2. So being able to take that information, have it do all that, research for me, present it to me. Also, though, double check your work, because it's still, it can be good, but make sure you're, speaking the truth, because you don't want to promise something because Claude said so, and now you're kind of like backpedaling. But yeah, definitely using it to do research. For myself, I have taught my AI agent how to storytell. Like, what is it we can do, and so I'm working with a client in Utah, and they shot hours and hours of just people talking and giving testimonials. And they're like, hey, could you do something with this? So what I did is, I technical side here, I've got no problem, because you can Google it, you can find out what I do. I take all the video, I bring it into Adobe Premiere, I can transcribe all that video, I take the transcription, I bring it into my AI that I taught, and I say, hey, here are the transcriptions of all these, interviews. I want to tell a story about this. Give me, people talking about that, but then it's not just talking. I want to start with a hook. I want to get an ask. And then I want to leave with a call to action. So it's creating a story arc for me with the time code of all these interviews. And then I can go in and start going click, 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 drop it down. So it's sped up a process that would have taken me days watching all the video and making notes to now hours. And now I'm able to produce something a little faster. Now, this is something that was a hurdle for myself, as kind of shifting gears from that hourly employee mentality to, I'm offering a service, and I have spent time building this GPT out to make my life easier, to present more content, better content. But I'm going to get paid for that, because I have that knowledge, that wisdom, that understanding, that life experience. And so being able to be like, I am worth this. Here's my value because of my years of experience. That's what you're paying for. Yep. And I've run into clients who've said, wow, I got this high school kid. He wants to get into video production. He's got an iPhone. He's going to go shoot it for me. Okay, that's fine. I'll see you in 6 months. Like, so that's what I'm using AI for, is to speed up processes, but it's educating it on how I would do it and giving it my background. So, kind of still has, I guess, my DNA in it. Yeah. But that's where I'm leveraging it. Also, AI is really great. I got a UPC battery backup, and could not figure out why it wasn't working. And ChatGPT went ahead and diagnosed for me that it's crap. Got to throw it away. There's no fixing it. So that saved me a whole bunch of headaches, because I was like going to think around with it, and like, oh, well, shoot, let's go buy a new one.
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating with the technical stuff. I haven't gotten to the level that you've done. I've definitely done like, hey, take this transcript from one of my clients, and let's create a social post or a blog post kind of from it. That's at least something that I've been kind of getting into, but that's a great idea. Obviously, like you said, you have your process. And so I always tell, at least I've got a couple employees, it's like, ideally we start off with an hourly, but you have a skill. And so as you kind of develop the skill, you're going to get faster, you're going to get better, and it's kind of becomes more efficient. And then, yes, at the end of it, it's more, you're paying me for this task, for the skill that I present to you because of my experience, versus saying like, oh, you're going to get 3 hours of work in. Like, that 3 hours of work with a beginner is not the same as 3 hours of work from an expert. And so that's the understanding of price, but a lot of times customers are only worried about like, well, this is what's coming out of my bottom line. So it's glad to hear you kind of mirroring that in a way too. So one of the things here that I always ask, and I'll kind of lob it up to you in case it's something that is more on the spot. I always ask somebody today's high traffic idea. Do you have an idea or something that will benefit someone? I think I would lean to you towards maybe more storytelling, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like, what would be a high traffic idea for any small business, side hustle, somebody who's trying to grow their personal brand that you kind of want to bring to the table?
Yeah. What's your why?
Mm.
You know, man, I've got an HVAC guy, and when he started working on my stuff, I'm like, hey, what got you into this? Like, what is your why? And hearing his passion behind why he does what he does, why he started his business. I mean, obviously he's here fixing my HVAC unit. Like he's got to like it, I guess. And but him sharing like, oh man, I got into this, and him just sharing the depth of it. And then he's like, yeah, and it's benefited my family because it put food on my, he's not doing it just to provide for his family. He's doing it because he loves it and he loves the technical side of it. And that was fun. And I guess my high traffic idea, or almost even challenge to people, is what is your why? And are you able to convey that to the customer, maybe even to yourself for clarity of why are you doing it? And if you're not, you're not passionate about it, well, why not? What drove you into it? A story that my dad told me, and I never got to meet my grandfather, but my dad told me that my grandfather told him, that tracks here, is he's like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, and my dad told me that when I was a teenager. Maybe that's why I went to theater, because I love doing theater. But it really came down to storytelling. I love storytelling, and now being able to get paid for it, which is like, you're okay, cool. But there's also this maybe it was only my issue, but it was finding value in myself, that like, this just comes naturally to me. And the idea of like, well, what do you mean you don't understand? Like, it's just easy. Oh, it's not easy for that person. That's why they're coming to you, because you have a particular gift that was given to you, that you have developed, that that's why you're here, and you can bring that to the table. And maybe I'm an arm and you're the leg. You're going to get me there, but I'm going to do the work. And just kind of knowing your place, and being confident and comfortable there, and not jealous of somebody else's giftings, and just trusting it. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of thinking I have to do everything, and leading into people that are way better than me, at things like, I do not build websites, but I will definitely connect you to somebody who can. But I'll help do the work, but it's going to get done a lot faster, and it'll be a higher quality if I let that guy do it more than me. So I guess that'd be my high traffic idea, is what is your why? Like, why'd you get into it? And keep that passion.
No, that's awesome. I think I've said it on social a few times, and it's something that, at least for me, I realized that same thing, and have been running after it ever since. When I was coaching track, I was like, and hanging out with kids, I was like, this is me running. Obviously, if you remember PT tests, I used to love running and just taking off. And then I all of a sudden realized, I'm sitting here with a bunch of kids in spring, seniors, like in high school, that are deciding to stay at school longer to go run. And it was just, and they're asking me questions about fitness and exercise. And I was like, and they're going to pay me for this? Like this. And ever since then, I was like, I need this feeling of doing something I love, as well as wanting to help other people find it. And I definitely feel that from you, as well as trying to not only just ask the question, but also kind of like push people. Like, is this something that you're really passionate about? Like, why are you doing this? And thankfully I had an old owner who one of the companies I worked with kind of call me out on that. Like I had that experience with track, but then kind of fell into, I got to pay bills, I got to pay rent and do these different things. And you kind of, all of a sudden you lose touch of kind of that dream or that spark or passion that gets you going. And he called me out and was like, well, what are you doing here? And that was kind of the reboot button for me to be like, you're absolutely right. And so, and now it's like, I'm at a point in my life of being able to who have kind of accomplished that. And now it's like, let's help other people. And so that's something I definitely have seen with a lot of the stuff that you posted about. And that's great to see and hear that it's something that kind of is still going within you. So I'm going to drop this here. If you guys want to follow Ben, check out, that's his Instagram handle. It might be different on anywhere else. Is there anything here that you want to plug? You had mentioned The Typist. Is there any way that people can go and check out the different things that you're doing, your website for your work? Like this is, let us know where to see you at.
Yeah. So if obviously you hit me up on Instagram. If you want to check out the website, it's atpproductions.com, ATP Productions, double P there. It's going to have a lot of information about what I've done for storytelling, Mission Possible Digital. That website is still, I'm always working on it. It's always a work in progress. You can check that out there. But yeah, feel free. You can, atpproductions.com would definitely be a place to go check out. And you can feel free, send me a message on Instagram. You can even do, Benjamin at atpproductions.com if you want to shoot me an email. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Hopefully in a year, maybe a year and a half, we'll have a documentary we can talk about that Ronnie's in. Because we'd love to have him hear his story and just tell that story of the 13th PSYOP.
No, that's awesome. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I hope we can catch up again in a few months and kind of hear what else you've been working on. And maybe we'll have other clips or whatever kind of new trailer launches, like it's actually a real talk show or something. So thank you. And I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys go check out Ben. Once again, I'm Ronnie West here from the Gale Force Studios. This is High Traffic Ideas.